Skiing was the only objective solo sport that I could find that I really loved. I could look terrible, I could do whatever I wanted, and as long as I was the fastest, nobody got to tell me I was third place or fifth place.
Bode Miller is really flying!
Self-assured, confident in one's own abilities or character. I made the US ski team right out of high school, so when I was 18, I got one start in the beginning of that 97-98 season in Park City, Utah, and I started second to last in the race and skied true to who I was at that time and ended up qualifying, finished 23rd the first run, which was a shock, and I had to deal with our CEO at the time and the older racers just going into complete panic, telling me just to like snowplow down the second run to make sure I finished because they all thought I was going to crash in the second run. And I went out and skied absolutely insane the second run and finished 11th in my first World Cup race. It set a tone. I think it was important for everyone else to see the way that I dealt with pressure and the way that I wanted to be as a ski racer.
Now watch this man. He has perhaps the most unorthodox style and technique.
I think my technique was always a weak spot. In ski racing, technique only matters in terms of how it affects your ability to navigate the course.
And in comes Bode Miller, looking for victory number 2 on the World Cup Tour. Bode Miller!
I was sacrificing basically being able to look a certain way or maintain certain body positions because I was trying to go faster, and I thought that was a pretty obvious trade-off. To maintain an edge, I would get rotated, my hands, my arms flailed around a lot because just like you'd see somebody on a tightrope or a balance beam or anything else, you use your arms for balance. I won the overall in 2005 and I won 8 races, and it was a year that propelled me to the very front of World Cup. I'd already been the guy, I'd been taking most of the media pressure and heat for years before that, but that was where it really kind of got narrow at the top.
Well, here's Bode making his usual exit, avoiding the media.
The media had worn on me a lot at that point. I didn't have the right skills to be able to process things real time.
He's lost a little time and Bode Miller is down!
I would say that was the low point in my whole career. The more you're in the top, the more you're in the spotlight, the harder it is to maintain, that self-assured, self-reliant system. It just, you get pressure from everywhere and you get crushed by your emotions and all that stuff. And that was certainly a point where, with all that pressure, I had to look inside and had to figure out how I was going to deal with it because it wasn't going to go away on its own. I felt like I was on a train, and I was the engine of the train, maybe, or maybe I was the caboose, and there was just all this mass going along with me, and the momentum was so strong that I just needed to get off. Away from it, I realized that there was still stuff that I had to offer and things that I wanted to accomplish. I decided I was going to go for the 2010 Olympics. If you look at my slalom performances leading up to that, I'd been crashing all the time. My slalom was garbage at the time. My skis were terrible. In that slalom, it was more like a reflecting back on that very first World Cup I'd had 13 years earlier, and that was the same approach. It was like, look, here's what I have to do. This is the moment. I needed to go absolutely 100% and take huge risk and make sure I executed. When I came across the line, it was another sort of moment like that first World Cup where I was like, yep, that's it.
Bode Miller has the gold!
That's why I'm able to do it, is because at that moment I focus on nothing else but that. I think being self-assured in my career was ultimately one of the most important pieces of the puzzle.